All right, I need to do a video about this character called Chris Mannino. It's amazing. It's amazing to me the kinds of people the government sent after Schaeffer Cox. You got this Hell's Angel, drug runner, drug user, con artist, $300,000 whore, Gerald J.R. Olson. You've got this sodomite lover, Bill Fulton, who's a very violent man. And then you've also got this Chris Mannino, who just got convicted in a murder for hire case back in February of this year. I don't even know if Schaeffer knows this. I'm going to print this article and mail it to Schaeffer. It says he was convicted and he'll be sentenced in, I believe it was May. We'll read the article together. But I found him on BOP.gov, but he's not in custody. You see that? Not in BOP custody. So to get an idea of all of the government informants for Schaeffer Cox, you got this Chris Mannino, and I want to read to you what Schaeffer said in his motion 60B about Chris Mannino. Then I want to read to you this article that I came across, which mentions Joseph Bottini, believe it or not. And then I want to read to you, or I want to list for you the government informants. You got Chris Mannino, you got $300,000 whore, Gerald J.R. Olson, you got Benedict Arnold, Bill Fulton, and you got this guy who run this, forget it, North Point Tactical or Far North Tactical or something, and he was some guy that, ran off his mouth and said he had a militia that he would give Schaeffer at his disposal and planted grenade fuses. And when they was asked if Bennett was a government informant, the government said we can neither deny or confirm that, and also if they don't tell Schaeffer's defense team that Bennett or Mannino is a government informant, that's called a Brady violation, and that's a reason for Schaeffer to walk out of prison today. They're supposed to disclose all of their informants before the trial even occurred. And the concern is that they did not disclose that Bennett was a government informant, and they did not disclose that Chris Mannino was a government informant. Hell, half the people we got in the freaking United States are government informants nowadays, since the government's got Federal Reserve. I heard they hired 26,000 government snitches that just walk around in society looking for people to rat out so they can get bonuses. Anyway, here's what Schaeffer says about Chris Mannino. Movement believes the first Polar Pen undercover effort was when he was approached by a man named Chris Mannino, who bragged of the sophisticated weaponry he possessed, including explosives. Mr. Mannino voiced his support for Movement's campaign and made modest donations. Mr. Mannino later offered to supply Movement with high explosives to kick some shit off, at which point Movement distanced himself from Mr. Mannino. After trial, Mr. Mannino was found to have been an informant. Through the Polar Pen prosecutors, though the Polar Pen prosecutors refused to make formal disclosure or supply additional discovery regarding Mr. Mannino. The reason the evil reprobate prosecutors failed to disclose the information that they captured from, that they collected from Mr. Mannino is because it would so clearly show that Schaeffer refused any plans to do anything illegal, to commit a crime. This article I just came across today, let's read it together. It's in the newsminer.com. Mannino convicted in Fairbanks murder for hire case by Dorothy Chomicz, Chomicz, C-H-O-M-I-C-Z, February the 5th, 2016. Fairbanks. A Fairbanks federal jury found Guy Christopher Mannino guilty of 3 of 5 charges of solicitation to commit murders of a witness and a federal officers on Friday. The jury deliberated for 9 hours before finding Mannino guilty of trying to hire Julius J.T. Chambers to kill Mannino's former friend turned government witness, an FBI agent and Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives agent. So Mannino was found guilty of trying to hire the murder of a former friend turned government witness. How many people we got ratting for the government nowadays? It's just Mannino's a government rat. He's trying to hire his friend to be killed, who's also another government rat. It sounds like the rats are turning against each other. Mannino, a former chiropractor, gun dealer, and explosives expert, was acquitted of trying to solicit murder of his former attorney and a second ATF agent. Oh, I guess they brought him up and indicted him on trying to hire murder for 3 people, and they only got him for 1. All 5 were involved in a 2013 case in which Mannino was charged with 6 counts of illegal transfer and possession of weapons for trying to hire his friend to kill a local attorney who was representing an opponent in a lawsuit. Mannino thought he was going to lose the case, so he promised the acquaintance several illegal firearms as payment for the hit, according to court records. The man notified authorities and agreed to act as an informant against Mannino. The plot was never carried out, and Mannino was not charged with soliciting murder in that case. He eventually pled guilty to 3 of the 6 firearms counts and an additional charge of concealing bankruptcy assets. Mannino was at Fairbanks Correctional Center awaiting sentencing in the case when he learned the murder plot would be considered relevant conduct and taken into account during the sentencing. According to the prosecution, Mannino approached his jailhouse friend Chambers to kill the witness and prevent him from testifying at the sentencing hearing. Mannino also asked Chambers to kill the 3 agents as a retaliation for their part in the investigation and to kill his former federal public defender for her perceived mishandling of his case, according to a government trial brief. Chambers testified Tuesday that he initially agreed to the plot but changed his mind after Mannino discussed putting explosives in the witness-disabled daughter's wheelchair. He approached authorities who arranged to record conversations between the 2 men in which they discussed details of the plot. Assistant District Attorney Joseph Bottini, Joseph Bottini, the devil himself. Assistant District Attorney Joseph Bottini played recordings of Mannino speaking to a friend on the phone at FCC, as well as recordings of Chambers and Mannino discussing the plot in the prison's law library, which had been bugged after Chambers contacted authorities. I guess Bottini's just got bugs everywhere all over Alaska, huh? In the recordings, Mannino could be heard telling Chambers where to get guns and explosives, how to get out of state, and promising him he had arranged to have him flown to Nicaragua. Mannino is scheduled to be sentenced on May the 13th. Bottini said he was satisfied with the verdict. They were a very attentive jury. They went at it hard and paid attention. I think the verdict makes sense, Bottini said. Mannino's attorney, Scott Dayton, said he felt terrible about the verdict. He described Mannino as a talkative, engaging person who always had something to say about to everybody. As soon as I took his case, I told him to stop talking to people, but unfortunately he never did, Dayton said. I think this was a case of jailhouse braggadocio, but the government took it seriously. Contact staff writer Dorothy Comix at 459-7582. Follow her on Twitter. Okay, well, first of all, if he's supposed to be sentenced, how come he's not in prison anymore? This right here says not in BOP custody. So that's kind of interesting. And then it says to contact this lady, but I guess I'd have to get the area code for Fairbanks. I wouldn't mind trying to contact this Dorothy lady. She does have an email up here. Anyway, I might send her an email and ask her what the heck happened to Chris Mannino, if he's in prison or not in prison. But keep in mind, this is the same guy who approached Schaeffer and tried to give him illegal weapons. And Schaeffer believes that he was a government informant. And he's offering to kill government informants, supposedly was convicted, but he's not in prison now? It doesn't make any sense. If he was convicted in May of 2016, did he get out in 5 months? This guy gets out in 5 months, but, you know, Schaeffer's got 26 years. There's something terribly, terribly wrong with our justice system.